Good morning. My name is Sal Cordaro. I've been a member of the Chico Bonsai Society for many, many years. And this morning, on this beautiful fall morning, I am going to give you a little demonstration on sharpening. First of all, what I'd like to explain the different types of blades that you'll be dealing with. First of all, one of your main tools would be your shears. Now, with your shears, it is a single bevel tool. It's flat on the inside and it is beveled on the opposite side. Much like in this drawing here, you see the straight line on the inside pair of the shears and the bevel on the outside. So in this particular type of shears, as a matter of fact, on all shears, as far as I'm concerned, never, ever, ever touch the inside of the blades with anything other than maybe just a cleaner. Like if it builds up pitch, you can use some like Easy Off or oven cleaner of some sort. You want to concentrate your work on the outside of the blade. Now this is true with your side cutters also. Some people will work on the inside of the blade, but I find that very, very difficult to keep that angle. But on the outside of the blade, as you can see that, you can roll that on your stone or your strop, whichever you're using at the time, much easier. The same is true with your knob cutters. It is pretty much a single bevel tool, and you would roll the outside, which I'll demonstrate later, of your tool. In a lot of cases, if you've taken care of your tools and there's no big nicks or chips in the blade, it's very, very simple to keep them extremely sharp. And there's a couple reasons for keeping them extremely sharp. The most important is the healing properties of your tree. By a sharp, sharp tool, you'll notice your trees will heal much more quickly than if they're dull. It mashes the cambium layer and it just doesn't cut cleanly. Okay, next step, I want to go through some of the different types of stones that you could choose to use. The most coarse stone, which on my tools I rarely use unless my wife uses my side cutters for a wire cutter and puts a big chip out of them, I never use. But this is a carborundum stone. It's very coarse on one side, finer on the other side. This is an oil stone. You would put oil on first and then you would hone your shears. Like I said, I rarely use this, only in case of really damaged tool. Then there is the hard Arkansas stone, which is a nice polishing stone. It'll just polish the blade if it's in good shape and keep it nice and polished. Then you have the Japanese water stones. These stones are wonderful stones, expensive. The problem with them is twofold. Once, you have to keep them in water at all times. The way you use these stones, they come in many grits. This is like a 12 or 18,000 grit, which is very, very fine. This is an Agora stone, and you need an Agora stone with a Japanese water stone. And what you do when this is has water on it, you would run your Agora stone round a circle like that, which create a slurry. Now the slurry is actually what the abrasive is in this stone. The problem with this stone, other than being expensive, if you use them fairly often, they can tend to get rounded, and they have to be chewed up on like a cinder block in order to keep them flat. Beautiful stone, wonderful properties as far as sharpening. Then, of course, that brings me to the next possibility, which I tend to favor a lot. And these come in many grits. This is a diamond stone. They're fine diamonds that are impregnated into steel. And these are wonderful. They don't warp, they don't change, they don't always stay flat. Again, a little on the expensive side, like this stone right here is, I believe, last time I bought some, they're around $50. But it's a lifetime stone. After you have completed honing your tool on, let's say, your stone, the way you would go about that, especially on your single beveled shears, you would lay the outside of the blade on the stone, and you would rock it until you find the sweet spot. It's flat. Then you take your thumb on one side and you draw it into you. And you do that several times until you can feel a little burr on the outside. Then you turn it over and you do the other blade the same way. Flat, you rock it till you find the sweet spot, put your thumb on the outside to give even pressure, and you draw it into you. And that would complete the beveling. Now, my next step would be, after I have completed this honing, I would take it then over to a strop. Now, I make these strops in all sizes, in all shapes, little tiny ones to big ones. All you need is a nice piece of leather, anywhere from a dime to maybe as much as a nickel thickness. And then you would just wrap it around a piece of wood, screw it down. Now, if you decide to make one of these, you'll take your leather and you will feel there's a grain in the leather. If you go this way, it's smooth and it lays those little fibers down. If you go this way, you can probably see it. You can see the way those fibers tend to lift. So you always want to polish your tools on the smooth side, and you would never run it the opposite way. Now you notice I've got a little arrow here to indicate which way this goes, and what you would do the same with this as you did with your stone. This would be more or less on your final approach. You would lay your blade on there, find the sweet spot, start at the top, and go one way. And what that does, that polishes it. And the importance of polishing is, if you've ever looked through a microscope at a knife blade or a pair of shears like this, it is like a very, very, you can see how shiny that is. It's like a very, very fine saw blade. These blades can be sharpened to the point of ridiculous sharpening. Now, this knife I work on, this little pocket knife I carry, wet my hand here a little bit, and you can see how sharp that can be. Now, it doesn't have to be that sharp, but I'm just showing you what sharp is compared to just semi-sharp. Getting back to our tools now. I think you understand fully the polishing and the honing on your outside of your blades. Now, the more difficult blades to sharpen are your side cutters. Everyone has a pair of these side cutters. If you don't, it would be a very, very good investment. What you do with these, you open them up as far as you can. You hold your stone, if they're in bad shape, or just your leather strop, and you would take that, lay it flat, and roll it. Roll it like that. And what that does, like I showed you in the indication there, it polishes it. It makes these very sharp. Now, side cutters, the sharper they are, really the better you are, because these are used a lot of times for larger branches, which tend to heal more slowly. So you can see again how polished that edge has become. And now on the other side, you do the same thing. You hold it up and you roll it. You roll it until you get to that blade, the very edge, and that polishes that blade. And that's what you want. Again, you can see the polish on those blades. That's pretty sharp. Now your third basic design of tools is your knob cutters. Now this again, you see that flat one side, and you've got kind of a bevel on the other side. Now on these particular blades, you basically take the outer side of the blade. You see they're pretty polished already. I usually keep my tools pretty sharp. Then you, with the same direction on your strop, take your blade, the edge of your blade, put it the edge on and roll it down, and roll as you're polishing. Roll that right on the edge, kind of on an angle, a little bit of a 45, and down. Make sure you do the whole blade. You can see how polished that is. Again, you switch over to the other side and do the same thing. 45 and roll it. Now, if they're not so sharp that you really need to use a stone on, it is the same process with the stone. You roll it thusly. Now, I must tell you, which I forgot to tell you earlier, if you decide to make some of these strops, you can impregnate these with a buffing compound. Now, there's a white stone, which is a little more difficult to find these days. The reason I prefer this is it doesn't leave too much residue on your blade. Fine quality blade. You can also use jeweler's rouge, which you can find in any hardware store. It's kind of a reddish stone, but again, it'll get a little bit on your fingers, and you just take that and you rub that downward in the same direction you'll be polishing until the whole side of the strop has been impregnated. I'll show you how. Just roll that down. You see the difference? The way that takes that polish off until it's all impregnated with this honing compound. And then again, you take that blade, find that sweet spot again, and roll it down. I think you can see that there, the polish on that. Now, Tormach makes a cream it's a buffing type compound. You can get this online, made by Tormach, which is a great quality stuff. You can use the jeweler's rouge, which is made by Disco, or unfortunately the Yellowstone. I think the man who makes this, he made this at home. I'm a woodworker and I bought this through a woodworking catalog. He may have passed, but he may not have. I've got his phone number and his address there. If anyone is interested in this, contact me and I will give you the info on that. Last but not least, I will use a little bit of oil on my tools. You don't need much. This particular product right here is camellia oil, which I like. It's a natural oil from camellias. And this is Blistol. Any machine oil, fine machine oil will work. You will want to take your tools, and when they make these tools, they put these in a machine that cuts the blade and the seat exactly the same. So you always want to keep the seat of your tools oiled. One drop is enough. Now you'll notice that as I'm moving the handle here, the pin stays stationary. On this side, it doesn't. So what you would do, you would put one drop on here like that, and that will lubricate your pin. And that's all the oil basically the seat needs. But you take a little bit of oil on your finger and you rub it on the inside and the outside of your blade. Oil will stop them from rusting. If they rust, a lot of times, if they're badly rusted, it can pit and ruin your shears. You don't want that to happen. These shears are too expensive to let that happen. Some people choose to use stainless steel tools, which don't rust. And they're a fine tool, don't get me wrong, but I have never been able to sharpen the stainless steel tools as well as I've been able to sharpen the high carbon steel tools. There is an exception. There's a tool, a steel like this. This is palladium. This is made, it's a single edge bevel for a woodworking tool called a planer. And these blades spin, there's several of them, 4 or 5, that spin so fast. These are hard to dull, but you get a set of blades like this for your tool, it'll cost you several $100s. So, you know, forget that. And Japanese cutting tools, implements, are not made of that type of steel. So whatever you choose, care for your tools, love your tools, and they'll take care of you. If you have any questions in the future, any of the stones or how to make strops, please feel free to contact me. And I think my phone number is in the phone catalog for Chico Bonsai Society. So feel free to call me at any time. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you very much.